Hey guys, Lydia here. Today's video is just going to be a little different. I'm not going to press anything on anything. I want to talk about the weeding process and how important it is to your whole decorating process. Of course, and this is my opinion. This is what I think, and this is how I view the whole weeding process. There are 4 things that are very important in my weeding process. And I think that should be very important in the weeding process. First is your cutter setting, of course. No matter which cutter you use, make sure you have it on the correct setting every time. Each vinyl has a different setting. You can't use the same setting for every vinyl. The second is your blade. I'm not saying you have to have a brand new blade every time, but you should have damn near close to a new blade, because you can do everything right in the weeding process. The vinyl can actually be the best vinyl, but if you don't have a good blade, you're not gonna get a good cut. The third is a weeding tool. I've tried many different weeding tools. This one is the Cricut one. This one works best for me for now. I do have one that I got off Amazon. I have one that came with some vinyl that I wanted to try from Amazon. And then my little tweezers. I've noticed that if it doesn't have a good hook and it's not sharp, you're not going to get a good grip on the vinyl and pull it up. Therefore, you're going to say the vinyl sucks. When in reality, it's not the vinyl, it's your weeding tool or your blade or your setting. Last is your transfer placement, as far as where you're going to set it to weed your design. Are you going to put it on a mat? Are you going to just, put it on the table and use your hands to hold it down? Are you going to tape it? Are you going to use a weeding table? All that factors in on how you can weed fast without fussing with your transfer. I use the Cricut mats. I use the long one because I can put more than one design on here and do it all at once. I like the way it sticks, it stays, and it doesn't fuss and give me trouble, and I'm not trying to constantly, I do take it off my arms because the mat sticks to my arms, but I'm not constantly fussing with the transfer and trying to get it off my hand. Ever since I started selling vinyl, I like to pay close attention on obviously everybody's opinion and what they think about it. And I've noticed a lot of people struggle with our Ultra Weed vinyl. And to me, I love that vinyl. It's my go-to vinyl. I've never had any issues with it. So when I see somebody say, this vinyl, it's harder to weed, I kind of just want to make sure they're doing everything on their part before they kind of come back and say, hey, I didn't like this vinyl. I'm not saying that person's wrong and they cannot like the vinyl. I'm not saying I'm doing this because, oh my God, somebody didn't like my vinyl. That's not it at all. This video is about making sure that you have your cutter on the correct setting, and that your blade is good, and that you have a good weeding tool and a good placement for your transfers before you kind of make a final judgment on the vinyl you're trying out. So let's get into the video. Okay, so the first design is Ultra Weed, and the setting on my Cricut is Iron-On. I'm using my green weeding tool I got from Amazon, and I don't have it stuck down to a mat. So right off the bat, you can see that I do have trouble hooking on to the vinyl. Getting your vinyl hooked quickly gives you sort of a momentum that gets you going, and it establishes a good pace. As you can see, I don't have anything holding my transfer in place, so instead of concentrating on just weeding the vinyl off, I also have to try to keep my transfer in place. I know little things like keeping your transfer in place or getting a good grip on your vinyl doesn't seem to be that big of a deal, But when you're weeding 10, 20, or even 30 designs on one order, and you also have other orders to do, every second counts during your weeding process. You can also see that it takes me a few times to get the excess piece off of between each of the letters, and it starts to become time consuming, and if I'm not careful, I can end up puncturing the design, to which I'd have to recut all over again. When you first start out, you're gonna throw a lot of designs away. You're gonna mess something up on accident, or you're gonna take off a piece of the design that you need and you won't be able to put it back. So if you could watch videos like this and learn from others' mistakes, then you will definitely make less mistakes yourself. So again, this setting was iron-on, and I didn't really have that much trouble getting the vinyl up. My biggest struggle was the actual weeding tool and getting it to get a little bit of a grip so I can pull it up, as well as trying to keep my transfer straight and not move so much, as you can see. So I am towards the end of weeding this design, which again wasn't too bad. That was 2 minutes and 47 seconds. So yeah, not too bad. So the next design is also Ultra Weed, but I cut it on vinyl setting. I have it held down on my mat. And I also forgot to mention how important it is to have something like this to put your excess pieces in. So right off the bat, I got a good grip. I was able to pick it up quickly without much of a struggle. And having a good blade, of course, allows you to weed a little bit faster without having too much breakage. Which breakage isn't a bad thing necessarily. It's not like it's gonna ruin any of the design. I mean, obviously we all want to be able to just pick up one piece and it all come off, but that's not really gonna happen all the time. Having that good weeding tool allows me to pick it up faster and pick up more than a few pieces at a time. And then also having my little tin close by allows me to take off the excess pieces quickly and return back to my weeding process. So the difference in these two designs weren't necessarily the cut and getting the vinyl up. They kind of both went a little smoothly. The difference was my weeding tool and having my transfer stuck down. The other one, of course, you saw I struggled to even get one piece up at a time. And I also struggled with keeping my transfer in place. So this mat holding my transfer down and having a good weeding tool made a world of a difference. So there you have it, 2 minutes, 4 seconds. To me, that's a lot faster than the last one. I know it's only by seconds, but in this industry, that's a big difference. So next kind of vinyl is glitter vinyl. I don't have it stuck to a mat. I cut it on the vinyl setting on my Cricut. I have my green weeding tool from Amazon. And as you can see, I struggled just to get the first piece up. So glitter vinyl is thick, so it's not going to weed as easy as something like Ultra Weed that's thin. But right away, I can tell this was not going to be a good cut at all. And as you can see, it was not a good cut. You can see the tracing of the design and where it did want to cut, but it did not cut all the way through. That necessarily isn't because of the blade. That is because of the wrong setting on your cutter. If it was on the right setting, it would have put more pressure on the blade and got through that vinyl pretty easy. So this is kind of pointless for me to keep going. You can see that it didn't work out well. So there would be no reason for me to keep going with this design. So I'm just gonna throw all that in there. All right, so the last one is, again, glitter vinyl. I have it stuck to my mat. I used the setting light cardstock on my Cricut, and I have my Cricut weeding tool. So you can see that it came up really, really easily. Glitter is probably one of my favorite vinyls to weed. Yes, it's thick, but as you can see, if it's a good cut, it comes up like butter. So I've really never had any issues weeding glitter vinyl at all. If you look back and compare the two videos of the first glitter vinyl and this one, you can see a big difference in weeding the design. The first one looked like I was really struggling to pull the vinyl up, which I was. I was definitely struggling to pull it up. But this one, it looked like it came up so easily, which again, it did come up so easily. And that was all because of the right setting and good blade that I had. So even if you don't have a Cricut machine, you have a different cutter, just make sure you know which settings are for which vinyls. And some machines make you put in like the amount of pressure you need on the blade. So that's also important. The Cricut machine doesn't do that because obviously the setting knows which, how much pressure to use. So just make sure you know that as well. All right, so we are at the end of the weeding. It took 1 minute 56 seconds, which is record timing. I love it. So there it is. Beautiful. And that is your glitter vinyl. All right, so that was a lot of cutting and weeding, but I hope you got my point of the video. The video wasn't to show you what setting to use. The video was to show you how important it is to have the correct setting. If you're trying a new vinyl out and you weed it and you're like, you know what, this took me too long, I don't like the way it weeds, just make sure you're taking every step in the weeding process. Make sure you have the right setting, make sure you have a good blade, make sure you have a good weeding tool, and make sure you have a good and firm placement for your transfer. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you like what you see, subscribe. If you guys have any questions, comments, of course, drop them down in the comment box. Other than that, I will see you guys in future videos.